Welcome back to my channel. My name is Cassie and today we're going to be doing a knit and chat video. I've seen a few different channels including Bethany of Well Love Knits do these style videos, and I A, had something that I am knitting that I wanted to work on, and B, had a topic that I wanted to discuss on the internet. So that's where we're at for today. We're going to be doing a little knit and chat video talking about how I monetized my hobby. Before we get into all that, you know the drill. If you like making your own clothes, sewing, knitting, all that good stuff, then you are definitely in the right place and you might want to follow along on this channel. You can give this video a like if you enjoy it. And I think we're just gonna get into knitting and then into the topic. So what I am making today is this Louise pullover from Northside Knits Co., I believe, yes. Everyone keeps thinking I'm making a baby sweater, and I think it's just because they don't know what sweater knitting actually looks like. But this is what we're sort of working with at the moment. I really love the bobbles. They are not even, but that's okay. I kind of like the irregularity of it. And I'm knitting it in a 100% wool from Hobby Yarns. I really am enjoying this color, and it's just a super fun knit. Like, I love how it's a little bit more involved, but I can still, like, I have the pattern memorized, so it's kind of just like autopilot in a lot of ways, which I think, you know, this pattern actually looks a lot more impressive than it is. It's really simple and kind of fun to do. So that's what I'm going to be working on while we chat today. And as I mentioned, we're going to be chatting about how I monetized my hobby, and it's one that I think is a bit of a funny sort of idea within the crafting community. And I think just in general, anytime anyone monetizes their hobby, there's a bit of that like push and pull. Like, what if you get sick of it? What if you end up like hating your hobby and then you don't want to do your hobby anymore, but you're stuck doing it because you've made a career out of it? All of that stuff comes up, and there's questions about that I've been getting, and also, you know, some resistance myself to monetizing my hobby. So I will backtrack a little bit. I posted this video honestly not that long ago, and I was already monetizing my hobby at that point, but I will play the video here.
Run.
And so yeah, the concept, you know, is if someone tells you you should monetize your hobby, if someone is like, oh my God, you should make and sell those, run the other way. And, you know, for me personally, I do still stand by that because I don't actually feel like I want to make or sell anything. I kind of, with the way that my hobby is, the way that I've been monetizing it has actually been really different, and it has happened in a way that I didn't really expect. So let me just like backtrack and start at the beginning, and we'll go from there. So my background is traditionally in marketing, PR, communications, content, copywriting, all that stuff. I had been doing that for probably 6 or 7 years. And during the pandemic, I was laid off. So the beginning of 2020, when the pandemic happened, like March 2020, pretty much by the end of the month after the pandemic had sort of gotten to full swing, I was laid off of my job. So I was working for a nonprofit, and I already, you know, I wasn't super happy, but I wasn't ready to be laid off, you know, especially because I didn't know what was gonna happen. None of us did. No jobs were available. If anything, jobs were becoming more and more scarce. And so I was really in a pretty dark place. Simultaneously though, I had just learned how to sew, and I had also just gotten back into knitting, and I just kind of dove right into both of those things and did it to occupy some time, didn't really think much of it. And then, you know, about a year later, I got another job and I started to work on that. And I was laid off from that job too after a few months. And it was at that moment where I was laid off for the second time during the pandemic that I realized I was just not in the right place. I was not where I needed to be. Something wasn't working, and I was trying to make something work that just, it wasn't happening. And so I talked to my partner, and I was like, I don't know what to do because clearly it's not working for me right now, and I don't know what I can even do. Like, what other skills do I have? What do I like doing? Like, what can I do? And his answer was really simple. He said, do the thing that you love doing. And I was like, that's a crazy thing to say. Like, the thing that I love doing is sewing and knitting. So like, what do you mean? Like, do that thing. Like, those are my fun things. And he said, find a way to do them. Find a way to make it happen. And we talked about it a lot. I went through a lot of ups and downs. I was already sharing my makes on the internet, on Instagram, and I was really enjoying it. I loved posting and sharing, making videos. I had started my YouTube channel, all of that stuff. And I think somewhere in my head, I really hoped that I could make money doing these things, but I just didn't think that it was feasible. And so him and I had talked endlessly. I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I knew I was going to go freelance, but I didn't know what exactly that meant because I had tried it already in between my 2 layoffs, and it didn't work. I wasn't bringing in any money, and I was just feeling super stuck. So after a lot of like searching and chatting and just continuing through all of this to, look for freelance work, I was looking primarily in like copywriting and content marketing, all the stuff that I knew really well. I was also looking at full-time jobs again, and I just knew that if I were to get another full-time job, or if I were to do content marketing full-time, even if it was for myself, that I would be in the wrong place. And it just was this feeling where I was like, I'm pursuing the wrong thing, I'm putting energy into the wrong thing, and I'm just going to end up exactly where I was if I keep going this way. And so I started to kind of branch out a bit. I put a lot of time into my YouTube channel. I put a lot of time into my Instagram, and my TikTok was also doing really well at the time. And I started to really think about what it was that I loved doing and what was sustainable for me in the long term. Was that going to be making and selling garments? I thought about that a lot. I thought about that really deeply, and that didn't feel quite right. Was it designing patterns, sewing patterns, or knitting patterns? That didn't really feel quite right as well, like especially not at the moment, because I was still really getting into sewing. I wanted to learn, and I just wanted to really immerse myself in my sewing practice, in my knitting practice, and see where it took me. But like, how do you make money off of that? So as I mentioned, I'm filming content, I'm doing TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and these are the things that I'm finding I'm spending a lot of time on. All my time, actually. And so I thought, okay, like I for one, I'm gonna take my channels more seriously. I'm gonna try to monetize all of them. And I'm gonna do that because I'm doing it anyways, and it's a lot of fun. And I have the background in marketing that I think I know how to position myself. And so I think that I can make this happen. And so I started to do that, and I started to reach out to brands, and I started to really just figure out what my value was. My value was, one, that I'm really good at building digital communities. I, kind of from scratch have started to create these spaces where makers feel welcome and feel inspired, and I tried to make my own image as authentic as possible so that people could really see my struggles and my growth and where I'm at. And I'm still super new in my knitting and my sewing path, that I didn't feel like I could share tutorials or anything like that, but what I could share was the process and the journey. And every time I get a comment that says, you've inspired me, or I picked up my knitting after years of abandoning it, or I dusted off my sewing machine for the first time and I sewed a shirt. I get these DMs all the time, and it makes me super, super happy. And so that kind of felt like, okay, I'm going in the right path. So I started, like I said, reaching out to brands. In January, I made a big list of all the brands I wanted to work with, a huge list, and I emailed all of them. And as I went on, I started to really understand my pitch. And like I said, I really understood my value. And my content got better as well because I was doing it every day, multiple times a day, really immersing myself in it. And honestly, it didn't pick up. Nothing happened. I was reaching out and I was getting crickets. And so I was thinking, okay, like what else can I do? And so we moved to Montreal. I got a part-time job at a yoga studio. And just to relieve some of the pressure from content making and from that journey, I was like, it's not either not working right now or not working at all, and I just need something to create a buffer for me so that I feel safe while I continue to explore this. So I did. I worked at the yoga studio. I've been working at the yoga studio, and having that, I go there evenings, and having that consistency where I know I'm going to be bringing money, where I feel like I know I can pay my bills. I have the whole day to work on whatever I want to work on, and then in the evening I go to the yoga studio. That really helped propel everything forward in the past few months. For one, all of the brands I reached out to more or less have come back to me and we've signed contracts. But I don't want to give the impression that I'm like a full-time influencer or anything, because that is really not the case. We're talking about like a couple $100 every month or so, maybe starting to be a little bit more than that, but still like not a sustainable income. Like my income is coming from the yoga studio. But what I also learned in the process of reaching out to brands was that I didn't have to be like an influencer. And that wasn't even what I wanted, to be honest, but I was still trying to figure it out. And what I ended up realizing was that I really just enjoy making videos, making content for social media. It's something that I find really fun and really inspiring. And so I started to reach out to brands to see if they needed help with their content creation, especially around TikTok. And that was where things started to really take off. Brands, I think, are still getting used to TikTok. Their social media teams are already taking on like a full load, and so to introduce another platform for them is often not reasonable. And so I've offered myself and my experience as a content marketer, or as a writer, and then also as someone who has grown their own channels, and I've said, hey, like, this is something that I can do, and I would love to do this for you. Here's kind of my vision and strategy for you. And as I've started to do that, it has really worked, and I've really received a lot of positive feedback, and I've got some meetings that I'm really excited about. I'm working within the creative industry, working with yarn brands, working with fabric stores, partially as like a content creator, at Making Cassie, that whole thing. But then part of it is not as my online persona at all. Part of it is actually just making content that will live on their channels, helping with their strategy, kind of behind the scenes, all the stuff that I really have a strong background in, but applying it in a way that is feasible for me and also enjoyable for me, and then fills a value or adds value to them. I started to pitch myself, and really, as I continued to pitch myself, as I continued to do this work for brands, I got really clear on what it was I wanted to do and what I was good at. So primarily the people who I work with are in the creative industries. They're in knitting, sewing, crochet, fabric, slow fashion, all that stuff, or related, sustainability, all that good stuff. And what I do for them is I will make videos and they will post them directly onto their feed. I will work with them on their social media strategy, especially from a sort of like TikTok and Instagram Reels like point of view, because that's the strategy, or that's something I've been more familiar with in the past year or so. And then I've also, like I said, I've been working at the yoga studio, and then I've continued to do my copywriting on the side. So the days that I have are really dynamic. In the mornings, I will do my emails, kind of plan the day a little bit. It's really not that organized. I'm not an organized person. I'll do a little bit of sewing because that's what makes me happy. I will maybe do some errands, do a little bit of copywriting work, film a video or film some content. And then in the afternoons, late afternoons, I'll go to the yoga studio, come back, and then just chill. Or maybe the day doesn't look like that at all. Maybe I'm working at the computer for most of it, although that rarely happens. Or, maybe I just need a day off and I just give myself that space. And so the days that I've had have been really interesting and have filled me up in a way that I really wasn't expecting. And it has felt really, really good to do that. And to just acknowledge where my strengths were, to acknowledge what I needed and, maybe what wasn't working for me before. And I was lucky that I had a partner as well who was willing to, sort of step in a bit and be patient with me while I figured it all out. And I was really grateful for all of that. It really helped me kind of get the footing that I needed. And so I guess if I had to really boil it down to what I did to monetize my hobby, I will say that I did my hobby first without expecting any money. So I was knitting and sewing and sharing, and I didn't expect anyone to pay me anything. And I didn't want it at that time either. And in order to start making money from my hobby, I needed to start to make money somewhere else because I didn't want to put all the pressure on, this creative space. So like I said, I got a job at the yoga studio, and that really is where I started to see results and progress. Another thing was I had to get really clear on what I wanted my hobby to do for me. So like I said, I wasn't interested in making and selling anything. If you are, that is amazing and you should go for it, but find ways to, like I said, to make it sustainable for you. But I didn't want to make patterns. I didn't want to sew clothes or knit things for people and sell them. And I knew that. And so knowing that, I had to then think about what are my actual strengths. I was so focused on trying to get as far away as possible from my marketing background that I didn't realize that I didn't need to do that. I just needed to reframe it. So I didn't throw out my background at all. I actually used it. I used it in my pitch emails. I used it to speak to them about, return on investment, about where I can add value, about my knowledge in strategy from a content, copywriting, sort of holistic social media point of view. And when I started to do that, but from the lens of someone who is also in the creative industry, so while I'm pitching fabric stores or pitching yarn brands or, pitching whatever it is, I'm doing it from one, the perspective of someone who knows a lot about marketing, and two, I'm also doing it from the perspective of someone who friggin' loves knitting, loves sewing, loves fabric, and has that knowledge as well. And that for me was the sweet spot. And that was when I really started to get tons of responses. There was a lot of follow-up. It wasn't just sending an email and letting it go off and disappear. It was sometimes 2 or 3 follow-up emails and being consistent. And I was actually told recently, and this was really helpful to me, but someone told me that they were really grateful that I continued to follow up and reach out respectfully because it would have likely fallen off, on their end. And, that is really helpful for me to know because sometimes you feel annoying, pestering, but that's the thing is you have to be an advocate for yourself. You have to really believe in your skills and what you can do. And you have to really value your time. And also, if you want it, you have to ask for it. That is something that I have really learned is if you want something, you have to ask for it. Because if you don't, the automatic answer is no. Every time, if you don't ask for it, the answer is already no. But if you do ask for it, you have the opportunity for the yes. And I started to look for the yes and ask for it, even when I didn't think I had any right to ask for it. Because me thinking I didn't have any right was just the small part of my brain telling me that I'm not good enough. And the more that I put that, I the more that I took care of that part, and the more that I'm getting kind of philosophical and deep here, but the more that I spoke to that part of me that was scared and didn't think that I was good enough, and told that part of me that, no, I know what I'm doing. Maybe this is a new space, but it's not so new that I haven't been here before, that I don't know the lingo, that I don't know where to go, and I don't know like what to do next. Like I knew what I needed to do. And when I didn't know what I needed to do, I would take a step back and I would do the things that I knew how to do well. And it has been the biggest lesson in perseverance that I have ever had, because I am not a patient person. Like, this YouTube channel has been the slowest growing thing I've ever worked on. It makes money now. It makes like $30, $40 a month, which I'm grateful for. And I have, worked on it for almost a year consistently, or over a year, but not super consistent within that full year. But I've decided to, really take it seriously and keep trying and put in the work. And I'm like really committed to doing that. But I've also, said I'm not going to just put everything into YouTube. I'm going to continue to work on my TikTok. I'm going to continue to work on my Instagram, building those relationships and partnerships. And again, to be transparent, like I say no to a decent amount of work because it's either, not paid or pays very little. I've had to negotiate for myself. I've had to understand and do a lot of research about my rights, how much to charge. I've undercharged a lot. I think I've finally gotten to a sweet spot where like I know my worth and my value, and I'll work with brands on finding that sweet spot together. But again, that's not my full income. My full income is still coming from the yoga studio, and some of my copywriting work, and then the rest is coming from some from YouTube, small amount, as I said, more and more from brand sponsorships and partnerships. So again, like sponsored Instagram posts, mostly sponsored Instagram or sponsored TikTok. A lot of those actually haven't really launched yet because they're brand new, which is, sorry, I got distracted by my cat again. So a lot of those haven't launched. They're just like contracts that have been signed and are gonna start to come up. But that's what was really the incentive for this video. Was I just had a really solid few weeks where emails that I sent months ago kind of finally started to click. I was able to negotiate contracts that I never thought I would be able to negotiate for long-term work, not as an influencer or as a content creator, but as like a contractor, not as making Cassie, but just as Cassie, like as myself. And it has all felt really good, and it has felt like it has been in the right direction for me. And I've been really excited to explore it, like I said, because it finally feels right, and it finally feels like the work that I've put in has been paying off. Because it wasn't instant. Like I mentioned, it has been the biggest lesson in perseverance ever. And I have felt dejected, and I've cried to my partner so many times because nothing is working. All those emails went unanswered for so long. And it feels so nice to reach this new point where, of that list that I made in January, I've had contact with pretty much every single brand that I've reached out with. Some of them have just been like, sorry, we can't do it at this time. But most of them have been a yes to some capacity. And that's really cool. It's really cool. It feels really good. It feels really affirming, and it feels really exciting. Yeah, it just feels really, really exciting. And how long will I do this for? I don't know. I don't know where it'll go, because even in 2020, I had just learned how to sew. I didn't have any expectations for it, and it changed my life. Like, it literally changed the direction of my life. Started knitting again after so long, not doing it for many years. These hobbies, like, they changed my life. So who knows? Maybe I'll like maybe I will sell things eventually, or maybe I will make patterns, or maybe I will find a new hobby that lifts me up and encourages me in a different direction. I don't know, but where I am now feels really good. And I have been really trying to soak in that feeling because it has felt so nice till I finally have a win, and to really celebrate those wins. So yeah, that's kind of where everything is at. Uh-oh, I'm losing a stitch. Can I save it? Yeah. Oh. Sorry, guys. Okay, here we go. I didn't want to have to like go and get like the crochet hook out. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it for today. I think that's everything. Thank you so much for being here. It was really nice for me to, honestly, I think I just needed to chat about it out into the world, to you, because like I mentioned, it has been a friggin' long road, and I just want everyone to know that, if you want to monetize your hobby, do it in a way that is sustainable for you, that fills you up, that nurtures you. Don't do it because of what anyone else tells you, because that's when it's gonna not work. And yeah, to anyone who says, like, what if you end up hating your hobby because you're monetizing it? I usually say, well, I hated what I was doing anyways. Like, I hated my work. And so why not, try to at least do something that I like and see where it goes. So we're gonna end there. Little wisdom for you. It's not my own wisdom. It's passed down from many videos and many, just searching and trying to figure out what's next. So I will leave that with you. If you like this video, a like really helps me out. If you want to follow along, I will continue to make these sort of videos. Knit and chats are fun. I enjoyed it. But also, just taking you along on my me-made clothing journey. And yeah, I hope you have a really lovely day, and I hope to see you soon. And like I said last time, I'm going to try to be posting twice a week, but I'm going to be traveling soon, so I'm not sure if that schedule will stay. So it'll either be once or twice a week that you will find me here. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.